Go on.
Yeah, it's showtime. All right,
It's
we're
showtime.
live. A little delay between when I hit the button and when we actually hit live. Lester got really excited, so we are live. We are
Yes.
going to be talking about the Chicago football team,
Mhm.
the one that they call the Bears, and yeah, it was fun. Fun game for about 55 game minutes,
Yeah.
and then it sort of predictably, I think, in a way. Like, did you ever feel comfortable? I mean, we can get into this in the show, but did you ever really feel comfortable?
No, not really. Just because I don't trust the coaching staff to do what they have to do to close out a game. And that's like been the theme here, right? Like not only this year, but even last year. Oh, they have to learn how to win games. Well, who's doing the learning here, and who's doing the teaching? I trust the players more
Kevin
than the
O'Connell
coaches,
must have come in with, like, an advanced degree in
right?
in that aspect of things, right? I know they lost last night, but, I mean, they've won a lot of close games.
They have.
I don't know, that learning how to win thing is a little weird, especially when a lot of it's just weird coaching decisions.
Hmm.
I I was curious about. I know I've been kind of on this all year, but I was curious about the last 2 drives. Maybe we can get into it in the show, but 2 blitzes, and one of them, like, I'm like, "Okay, yeah," but it was like a delayed blitz, and I don't have a great I just had the TV copy, so, um, I don't know. We'll call it a blitz. I mean, it looked like Gordon kinda delayed and then came a little later, but, wasn't didn't apply any pressure. And and then they had, like, 1 actual, like, 5-man pressure. Everything else was 4, and then they had of those 10 pass plays, they only ran 2 stunts with Ngakoue. That was it. Like, it was just no creativity. Everything was just kinda straight 4-man rush, sit back in a zone, let him pick you apart. After you tortured him all game. I mean, Goff had 3 picks plus the one that Jalen should have taken back for 6,
Yeah.
and you just sit back and zone and say, "Oh, prevent. We'll be fine." I I just
Terrible.
I just don't know, like, you hired a conservative, old school conservative defensive coach that doesn't really want to, take it to the other team. Like, it's so frustrating to watch. It's not surprising that he's lost 3 huge leads in the last 2 years, or 4, whatever it is. It's not that shocking to me.
It's what he does. This is who he is, and by association, this is what his offensive play caller is too. They're just conservative, and it's terrible. Oh well,
All right, well, do you wanna just hop into this thing?
let's go. We're ready.
I don't have any, syphilis stories or anything like that,
Ah,
so
okay, that's good.
sorry. You challenge me to get more of those, kinds of things. I'm sure I can dig something up, but nothing nothing crazy. Have you used the myth of Sisyphus in an article yet?
I have not because just the spelling is challenging to me.
It's too much.
It's too
We'll work
much.
we'll we'll work on it we'll work on your Greek mythology in the off season. All right, we'll get going here. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Burkus, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, if you turned the game off at the end of the third quarter, midway through the fourth quarter, you might be surprised to learn that the Chicago Bears lost the football game in Detroit last night. Uh, Other than the end of the game, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a little visitor back here. My wife putting our ferret away, so back sleeping, which you might hear it chopping around. But yeah, it was nice. It was a nice game for 50 some odd minutes. And then it all went to hell. And then I just unplugged after the game was over. I'm like, that's it. I'm done with it. I'm gonna go do some stuff. I got some things I have to take care of.
Like a
It was
ferret, apparently.
a ferret, apparently. Yeah, it was my wife's birthday, so we had the family over. So I cooked out. We just tried to enjoy some stuff, and I just had to get away from that game. It was just stupid game, like always.
Yeah, so it's the second time this year that the Bears had, something like a 97 or 98% winning probability on those little charts that they show. And ended up losing that game. The other one was to Denver. I went back last year. I know that they blew a big lead against Detroit last year as well, and I think there may have been another one that I am not coming up with at the top of my head. But this is not something that we are unaccustomed to in the Eberflus era. leads have not been particularly common, but when you've always only closed out 6 victories in your year and a half, and you have 3 or 4 giant blown leads, like that's not a very good ratio in its own right. I mean, if you were talking about, oh, it's the 4th time he's blown a big lead, but he's won 30 games over the last 4, whatever it is, it's a different tune, but this is this is just a year and a half, so definitely a trend here. And yeah, we're gonna, I'm sure, talk plenty about Eberflus and in this philosophy as we get going. But
The
on this
hip
show,
philosophy.
every week we start in the trenches. And so, trench tribute this week, I think there's probably some good options here to talk about. So, who did you want to highlight for your trench tribute?
I like the game from rookie Jervon Dexter Sr. I thought he looked pretty good. I mean, he's flashing a bit now. I saw a stat. I forget who tweeted it out. I apologize. I kind of saw it in passing. His pass rush win rate is now second among all rookie defensive linemen. He's playing better. I know there was a lot of concerns when he was drafted about his get off, but he kind of got rid of those pretty quick, and now he's kind of where he is. And the Bears use him at defensive end now once in a while, which is something that I don't think he did much at Florida. But he's a versatile player, and if he can keep developing like he is, that's a home run for Ryan Poles in the draft.
Yeah, he had that tip that led to the
Yep.
3rd interception, the one that Edmonds got. That was tipped at the line, and that was Big Dexter getting his hand on it. So
Yep.
yeah, I think he's been playing pretty good football. He doesn't get a ton of snaps, but you've got some veterans in there. There was a couple games where he really didn't get a lot of play at all, and you kind of question, like, why aren't you playing these younger guys? And then it kind of leads to, like, well, Eberflus is trying to squeeze as much as he can out of the veterans, as opposed to trying to develop young guys. We saw that in the last year, the Nagy era too. You weren't seeing quite the development of the younger guys because he was trying to trust the veterans. You see that with coaches that are fearing for their job a little bit. But again, what we have seen of Dexter overall, it'd be great to go back, I think, in the offseason and kind of revisit all of his snaps and see the progression. But I think it's there. I think he's coming along, and I think he can be a good football player. I'm going to talk about the other rookie. I think Darnell Wright. Look, it closed on a bad play, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's a number 2 overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson, that beats him on that last play, strip sack that basically ended the football game. But up until that moment, Darnell Wright had a pretty good football game, and again, I think he's still playing hurt, but it didn't seem to impact him that much this game. I thought he played really well. And every week I'm just drawn to him. I'm drawn to Jenkins, and I really like watching those guys play. And I thought he held up very well for most of the game against pretty good competition. So I know people want to only focus on the one bad play, but I saw what I thought was a pretty good game out of Wright.
I saw the PFF grades come across Twitter, and I saw he had a pretty poor grade. I'm like, okay. So on my rewatch, I'm like, I was trying to watch what he did here and kind of see what they were doing. And because when I first watched the game live, I thought he had a nice game. Going against one of the better young edge rushers in the game, in Aiden Hutchinson, he didn't really affect the game till, of course, when he did at the end of the game there. But I thought Darnell Wright had a nice game. And then when I went back and rewatched it, same thing. I thought he looked really good. Him. I know there was a lot of concern with moving Tevin Jenkins back over to the spot he started the year at left guard. Tevin Jenkins played pretty good. Nate Davis played pretty good. Braxton Jones played pretty good. Center, bit of a hole again, which is what we expect to do. But there are some pieces here on this whole line here. For whatever the Bears do moving forward, I think they're starting to come together, and I like what Poles has his group is now up front, at least compared to where we thought this would be last year. They've done a nice turnaround, and now these guys look pretty good. Center's got to be fixed though.
Well, you mentioned the center. I'm curious what you thought of that hit that Lucas Patrick took that looked like it took him out of the game. Looked to me like a pretty cheap shot. I'm not sure why they did not call a penalty on that. I think that Eberflus said in his presser that they were going to send that to the league for review. But I don't know what the injury update on Lucas Patrick is. But one, the play itself looked like he got kind of blindside hit on a play that wasn't even live, that didn't even count. And 2, you had Dan Feeney come in. the plan was for Feeney to be the center backup and for Whitehair to be the backup to both of the guards. I'm curious if Patrick misses any time, do you think we get a Feeney start, or you think we're back to Whitehair starting?
I think it's got to be Feeney. It's kind of like the Bears pulled the Band-Aid off and, okay, look, that's it. Sorry, Cody. Your snaps were not what we wanted from you this year. I think he's a guard now for the rest of the season. I can't see him going back. As far as Lucas Patrick, yeah, that would look like a cheap shot. The league outlawed those hits, those peel back blindside blocks. I mean, back in the day, that was like, NFL Films stuff to put on it. That was like, the highlight of every ESPN, show. But now these days they realize that's kind of a cheap shot. It's unnecessary. He got hit, and Flus did say they're going to have that one be looked at by the league. He didn't get an explanation in the real time, of course, which doesn't really happen. But I think that there may be some fines levied there.
Oh, 100%. I think that they're getting fine there. All right, let's move on to the Twitter portion of the week. I'm going to let you start off because you've got I have a fun one, and you have one that's just kind of mean. So we'll get yours out of the way first.
Mine's a throwback. I'm going old school. At Chicago Bears, January 31st, 2022. It's a little video clip from Ryan Poles' first press conference. And the quote highlighted on a tweet was, we all know this, "We're going to take the North and never give it back." He got a lot of flack when he said it. Obviously, from non-Bears fans, they're coming at him. And look, he's the GM at the time. That's what you have to say. You got to hype that up. I know when they hired Lovie Smith back in the day, he made a big deal about beating the Packers, and what he did. Eventually, he got to the point where he was, he beat the Packers. But look, the Packers were the cream of the division at the time, so it makes sense him coming out there and saying that. Ryan Poles comes out and he says this, and now here we are through a season, more than a season and a half. They have not won one game in the NFC North. Flus is 0-9, I believe now. So
correct.
If he comes in, this is his big statement off the top, right? This is the big highlight reel moment that he says here. And if his head coach can't win a game in the NFC North, what does that say for his head coach?
Well, you would think that you would want to maybe get a different head coach.
Yes,
like
exactly.
That would be maybe where you would want to go with that. I saw someone quip, and I apologize to the person that tweeted this at me, and I don't remember who it was, but they said, no, he was saying we're going to take fourth, as in fourth in the division, and never give that back, which I thought was pretty funny because unfortunately that feels pretty accurate right now. Bears were, I think, tied with Green Bay coming into this week, but Green Bay won their matchup this week. So, yeah, that's a sad one. Throwback, but a sad one. I thought this one was fun. So I put this out there, give me your hottest, saltiest take. And Anthony Roddick at My Imploding Life on Twitter says, "I'm at a point where I think the Bears would be better if they varsity blues the rest of the season. Fire the staff, let the players take turns calling plays. Even if they are worse, at least it would be enjoyable." So for those of you who missed the landmark 1999 movie Varsity Blues, at the end, the Bud Kilmer tries to give a Wendell a shot in the knee, and the locker room revolts, and so they take the field without the coaches, right? So very, very fun. And then Lance Harbor and the injured guys are calling plays on the sidelines. It's a ridiculous scene, but kind of fun. So I thought this was funny. And so I wanted to highlight a funny one. Most of the ones we've highlighted have been angry or salty, but this one was pretty funny. But I want to ask you: is there anybody in Bears recent history, any Bears player in recent history, you think would be good at calling plays? Who would you want? Like if this happened,
okay,
this happened, right? So the Colts. They fired their coaching staff last year, and then they put Jeff Saturday, right? Jeff Saturday, as their head coach, right? They got a lot of crap for it and all that kind of stuff. So this has kind of come up a little bit, like who's the Bears version of this? But is there like a good Bears version of this where somebody that you wouldn't mind maybe seeing them call plays?
I think the obvious answer may be Josh McCown because he is a recent player, had some success in Chicago, obviously under the Mark Trestman era. He's already known. He's only coached, I think, 2 years now in the NFL as an assistant, but he's already seen us one of these up and coming guys. Just a good football mind. I think he's a guy. I guess it's going to be kind of meatbally, but man, let's get Olin Kreutz in there. I think he would come in there and I think he would right some of these wrongs that's happening here with the O line and stuff. He would kind of get things, set how he wants it set, keep guys where they're supposed to play, let them play there, and he'll be smash mouth. I think at the end of the day, that's what that he wants to do. So as this is I saw this tweet and that's a fun one. I started thinking of other fictional coaching characters that can kind of come in and do a better job than Coach Eberflus, and I think pretty much all of them could at this point.
Well, I put so Bud Kilmer, played by John Voight, has like in the movie has kind of that slick back hair that Everflus has, and so I made the comment like, yeah, they're kind of similar. And then I was like, I'm actually going to tweet out pictures of these two side by side because there is a little bit of similarity. And then as I said it, like the only difference is that Bud Kilmer put banners in the rafters. Yeah. He had 2 state titles and 22 district titles. Count them, Lester. That guy was dominant in his district. Texas State football, man. Gotta love it. All right. I watched that. That movie came out right at the right time for me, by the way.
Okay.
I was, senior in high school, playing football. Like that thing was in very like, I don't know, important movie. It sounds weird for a movie like that, but important movie in my life. And my head coach was kind of an a-hole and kind of reminded me of Bud Kilmer and kind of an old school guy. Right. So this was kind of, it spoke to me in certain ways. And so it's a fun movie for somebody to reference and maybe able to talk about it on the podcast. But I don't know. I don't know that I have a better answer. Like you said, McCown's like a legitimate coach. He's probably going to be a head coach here, in the next few years. The Texans were playing around with even hiring him, with no coaching experience. I mean, you got to pay your dues a little bit there. I don't know that I have a better answer necessarily. I'm sure that there's someone like a Chase Daniel or some sort of backup quarterback that had been here, a while that could be that. I don't know that the Bears don't really have that on the roster right now, right? Like there's no current play. Like I don't think you want Nathan Peterman. He hasn't been in the league long enough or proven enough that you would say, oh, he'd be a good play caller, right? Like there's nothing there necessarily. And I don't know that, there's just not a lot of experienced players that have been here long enough that you'd say current player, yeah, could go call plays, right? Just have Fields draw them up in the dirt, I guess. I don't know.
Old school. I mean, back in the day, quarterbacks called their own plays. So just let Fields do his thing and let's see what happens. Like I said, it's not going to be any worse. I mean, there is no game flow. There is no flow to what happening with Getsy. So let Fields do it.
That'd be hilarious. I love it. Yeah. It's like that was the Namath, right? Namath called his own plays. Unitas called his own plays. All back
Bradshaw, all those old school guys did. Yeah.
All right, we'll hit up onto the statistics portion of this. Our stats caught up in a numbers game. There was one tweet out there about this game that was, I think maybe we should talk about, but I didn't pick that. But I'm curious if you went that direction. So what is your stat for the week?
My stat is 63%.
Okay.
And that is the playing time from Bears' new defensive end Montez Sweat. 39 snaps out of the 62 for 63%. In comparison, Yannick Ngakoue led the Bears D-line with 73% of the snaps, which fine. He's an edge rusher. That's his thing. But Flus was actually asked at his presser if Montez Sweat should play more snaps. He compared Sweat as a player to Aiden Hutchinson, the Lions. We already talked about earlier. And Hutchinson played 92% of the snaps for Detroit. And Flus's answer was, and I'm going to quote him here, that's just how we do it. We platoon those guys. I don't know if you're paying Sweat as one of the top end defensive ends in the NFL. I want him on the field more than what he's shown. And NBC Sports Josh Schrock actually tracked Sweat's usage, and he had Sweat on the field for only half of Detroit's third down and red zone plays. That's a money down in the NFL for your defense. And you're having your big money guy on the bench half those plays. That is inexcusable. You need your players on the field to make plays. Sweat needs to play more.
This reminds me of the conversation I was having with the Lions guys. I went on the Pride of Detroit podcast last week, and I was talking about the offense in this way, but this idea of like this egalitarian approach, this like, well, we're going to have 3 targets to this wide receiver and 3 targets to that wide receiver. We're just going to spread things out equally, and that there was a lot of Nagy personnel type stuff back then, where like everybody on the roster would get like this big percentage of plays, and like I think that kind of works in theory when you're trying to build a team and get everybody like bought in and everything. But when you actually watch NFL games, teams don't do that. Like they rely on their stars. Those guys are playing a huge percentage of their snaps. You know, I mean, you don't see Max Crosby subbing out, right? Like these guys are on the field all the time because they're even those guys that are maybe a little bit tired are better than your next line guys, right? So there's a little bit of that where you want to give them a little bit of a break, but that's too much. Like that's too much of a platoon, and there's a huge drop off between Montez Sweat and in your reserve defensive ends. I mean, that's why you went out and you traded a second round pick and paid him all that money, right? So I think there's just a misunderstanding of how to allocate your personnel. And I think that's shown on both sides of the ball, and distribution of targets, distribution of snaps, when those guys should be on there. If you're saving those guys, save them for third downs, right? Sub them in when the money downs come in for those defensive ends. Okay, sure. You don't want to play them on first down. You want to give Yannick Ngakoue a breather on first down or second down. Go for it, right? But make sure he's out there on third down. Same with Montez Sweat. You want your best package out there all across the league. These guys, they get NASCAR packages in, right? Like they get their best pass rushers in on third down. You just don't see the Bears doing that. There's just no creativity. And I think there's just a lack of understanding how to use your personnel. So really good stat from you. I went a little bit more positive. I was thinking about this. Justin Fields rushed for over 100 yards. And how many times have he done this? And it's the 5th time in his career that he's done that. And for quarterbacks all time, he's now in 3rd place. He broke a tie with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had 4 such games as of this week. I don't think Russell Wilson's ever getting another one, but so that's his 5th. Michael Vick had 10 in his career. So he's actually in 2nd place. Lamar Jackson, 13.
Okay.
So Lamar Jackson's had some games. Like he's definitely had some 100-yard games, but already in 3rd place all time for quarterbacks. I thought that was a pretty cool number, breaking that tie with Russell Wilson. But it just reminded me, or like just kind of put a microscope on, where was this during the beginning of the year? Like, you figured this out. This was such a huge part of his game and his success that created this buzz around Fields in the offseason. Like, he was, top 100 player as voted by his peers. He's in the like NFL script commercials talking about replacing his legs with wheels. Like, this was a part of his game, to the point where opposing coaches are game planning against this and then shocked that you're not using it. Right. So where was this in the first, 6 weeks of the year? And I guess I'm just glad that it's back now.
We talked a little bit before we hit live how he had 18 carries, which we both feel is a little too much. We don't want to see the quarterback running this many times. Some of those are zone reads where he pulls it and he takes it, which is fine. And Fields was really smart. I mean, he didn't take any big shots. He got down. He slid when he had to slid. There were a few times when the Lions kind of jumped on him after the slide where I'm like, come on, when is Fields going to get that call? Other quarterbacks seem to get that call, but it just doesn't happen with the guys that are athletic and running quarterbacks. They don't really get the same as more of their classic drop back guys. They kind of seem to always get that call. So, yeah, I mean, this was the offense the Bears ran last year, which had some success. So build off that, build some more play action around it, build a few more drop back, game around that, build some more quick game around that. But don't stop doing that. And that's what Getsy did. Getsy stopped doing the stuff that worked early on. And then, it's nice to see it back.
Talking about that slide and guys hitting, it reminds me of this clip that I recently saw, and I don't know if anybody else caught this, but Mike Singletary hit a quarterback that was sliding. It was kind of this awkward in between, like it was a kind of a late slide, but Singletary took him out, and it would be absolutely a penalty. He probably would get fined today. Back then, whenever that was, late 80s, probably early 90s, they called it the hit of the year. And they were celebrating how great of a hit that was. And they interviewed Singletary, and to Singletary's credit, he was like, this is, you don't ever want to have this. This is bad. Like this
Yeah.
was a bad situation. Like you don't want to have guys hit like that. Like you could tell he was like, no, this isn't good. Please don't celebrate this. But it was like, it was the hit of the year, right? We've come a long way, at least from that time
Yeah.
period where quarterbacks were just getting cold cocked. And anyway, but yes, it would be nice if Fields got that call. Why don't we just roll right into the Fields report? So Justin
Beautiful.
Fields, 16 out of 23 for 169 yards passing. He had 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Took 2 sacks, lost 18 yards on those sacks, and then had, of course, the fumble that basically ended the game. Quarterback rating of 105.2, so excellent quarterback rating for him. Also carried the ball, as we talked about, 18 times for 104 yards. Overall, if you watch this game and you thought that Justin Fields was the problem, I'm not sure what game you were watching. He played really well, had a great connection with DJ Moore, which was great to see that pick back up because that connection was starting to cook. And overall, I thought that he played a good game. What did you think?
Yeah, same. The explosive plays. I mean, it's nice to see those back. I think it was Dan Orlovsky tweeted out that with Justin Fields under center for the Bears, they average like 8 explosive plays a game. That's been missing from the offense the last few weeks. Yeah, they got a couple wins. They won 3 of their last 6 before this latest L. But it wasn't the type of offense you want to see. It wasn't nothing explosive. It was like too methodical. It's not modern offense. So Justin Fields being back in to kind of open things back up, he was able to go deep a little bit. He missed a couple guys. Some with his fault, some wasn't. You mentioned the 2 sacks, which the first sack happened. I had to talk to a buddy of mine. He's got to get rid of that ball, but I haven't seen the all 22 yet. I literally just got it about an hour or so ago. I'm going to watch that sack. Watching it live, I didn't see anywhere to go. And at that situation in the game, sometimes the smart play is just to turtle it, hold the ball, and just go down. He had no running lane. There was nowhere to go. He was trying to hold the ball for a play. Sometimes there's no play. We'll see when I break it down, where I attribute that sack to. This is the second sack he took. I mean, we already talked about at the top. Darnell Wright got beat pretty quick by Hutchinson on that play. I didn't put a stopwatch on it yet, but it was like a second. The guy was there. He obviously was reading the other side of the field first. He didn't even see him coming. Unfortunate. He got clobbered on that play.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it'll be interesting to see on the All-22. Like you said, we didn't get that until about an hour ago. But I think then that, like you say, sometimes the smart play is actually to just hold it because you don't want to force it. Sometimes try to fire it out of bounds, over somebody's head. That probably that's more ideal, right? Than trying to get rid of it. But you're trying to make a play. You're trying to hold on to it, see if something opens up. I get it. There was early in the game. There was that free rusher that came in. Well, it wasn't a free rusher. It was picked up by the running back, but he kind of olayed it. It was very early. Like I think it was 4th play of the game. And Fields flushes the pocket, but he keeps his eyes downfield and then fires kind of a sidearm ball to DJ Moore. And there was a couple plays like that where it was just like, whoo, okay. Like there it is, and it felt like those are the plays that you were wanting. Did you watch the Bills game by any chance?
I did not.
Okay. So they threw up a graphic in the Bills game and they talked about Josh Allen and how he has like more touchdowns than in all these like big plays than anybody else in the position, and then also has more turnovers than anybody, right? So with Allen's such an interesting guy to watch because he plays hero ball and he can just sometimes it works and he just takes the team on his back and he makes these tremendous plays that don't make sense that a quarterback can make. And that's why people talk about him in such a high regard, is that he's got this ability to make these explosive plays and extend plays and just, carry pockets and, do all these things. And then he has games where he just implodes and he just hands the other team the ball. And I think that to me, watching Josh Allen and watching Justin Fields is that to me, there's a lot of similarities. Maybe the highs aren't as high with Fields all the time, but maybe the lows are maybe a little bit more frequent than where Josh Allen is at this point in his career. I don't know. I'd have to really kind of think about that. But I think that's the kind of player you're talking about, a guy that is, has the ability to create so many explosive plays. And particularly if he's able to extend plays and keep his eyes downfield and distribute the ball. The one play, Moore wasn't necessarily wide open. He wasn't just standing there with 20 yards of space. He threaded the ball.
Yeah.
It was a really cool throw. And so you see guys like you see Josh Allen do that a lot. So when I was watching Fields against the Lions yesterday, that's what was coming to mind. Like, man, this is a lot like Josh Allen. And you harness that guy, then you can live with those highs, or you can live with those lows, because those highs in the long run are going to win you more games, and it's going to create more explosive plays. So that's more of what I saw was like the good part of that type of quarterback yesterday.
Yeah, I mean the Bills. I mean they run Josh Allen on design runs. Obviously, they don't do it quite as much as what we see the Bears have done last year, and even this last game when he had so many carries. But it's it's the modern NFL. I mean, it's part of it. And Justin Fields is a big dude. I mean, he's a strong player. He's like 6'3", 225. I mean, he's not like a frail quarterback. He could take some hits, and like I said, if he's smart about it, if he gets down, gets out of bounds, he is a threat. And when I was doing the rewatch today, was it Mark Schlereth was the color guy on Fox?
Yeah.
He was talking about how just the threat of Fields, just the threat of him running affects the defense. And we've heard, like you said earlier, we've heard defenses the Bears have played this year talk about how we thought Fields would run more. We were expecting more of what we saw last year out of the Bears. And for some reason, the offense kind of got tweaked up a little bit. And they're probably doing it because they want to make sure you can win from the pocket. It's more sustainable, you hear. But you know what? Win some damn games. That's all what it takes. And if this is your best way to win is by running a little more, then let's do it.
Yeah, I think that the offensive coaching staff really outthought themselves to begin the year, right? Like they're playing that game where they're like, well, if you know that I know that you know, and it's just they got out of this. They didn't lean into what they should be majoring in, right? Like, this is what we're good at, and this is what we're going to do, right? They're like, well, no, this is how I know how to play offense. We're going to try to fit you into this. Hopefully the last part of the year is more showcasing what Justin Fields can do, either for the Bears or for his next team. Like, let's we don't even need to talk about that right now, but what's best for the Bears is showing what Justin Fields can do, whether or not it's for the Bears or for somebody else, because the Bears are still going to have ownership of his rights up until the point that they decide to trade him or not. So, all right, let's take a quick break. On the other side of this, we'll do everybody's favorite segment, the Three Bears. Stick with us. All right, Lester, let's talk Three Bears: hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and just right. Fun game. So, we already talked about Fields, so, I don't think we'll necessarily do that. Or maybe you want to hand him a whole hot bowl of porridge, but there's a couple players I think deserve consideration here. So who did you have?
Last week I had this rookie cornerback in the just right category, but this week I got to give Tyreek Stevenson the hot bowl. He gave up no completions. He finally had his first interception. He had a forced fumble on special teams. Best game of his young career. He was physical, and I on a lot of the runs of the Lions had, he was the first guy up in run support. And your corners have to support the run in this day and age. It's just how it is. They got to be up there doing their thing, especially in this Eberflus style defense. He did it. He fit the bill. He had a nice game, and our podcast, compatriot, Taylor Dow predicted the pick for Stevenson, and it happened here in this in the game on Sunday.
Yeah, she'd been holding back that episode, hoping that Tyreek would have a big game, and then she rolled it out, and here it is. So maybe Taylor is the reason why this big game hit, right? It's kind of seeded it into the universe. So good job, Taylor, on that. You know what? Honestly, there's a few guys that you could highlight, but that's where I went to. Like, I think that you had to showcase the rookie, especially when he's had some tough games, which is exactly what you expect out of a rookie corner. And his comments coming into this week were even, hey, I know I'm learning. Like, I'm taking this in stride. Like, he's approaching it the right way. That he had a great game. That that interception was just really just having your eye on the ball and making a play. It was just an errant throw. It wasn't him jumping a route or anything like that. It was just kind of an errant throw. Those happen all the time. Like, there's 3-4 balls a game that just are off target and they just sort of harmlessly fall to the turf. So being aware it was really opportunistic and fun to see, and so that was great. And then he did you mention the forced fumble?
Yes, on special teams, he got that.
Right.
Yeah,
So he had a forced
yeah.
fumble on special teams as well. So I think he definitely deserves the highlight this week, and really cool to see. So good for him. Let's flip it around. Cold bowl of porridge. Who did you have for this?
I'm just going the overall play calling being too conservative from the offensive and defensive coordinator. We heard Coach Eberflus in his press conference today. He talked about how a game that went right. He bragged about how the play caller in that game, which happened to be him.
Oh, it
You
was
know,
me. It was me.
yeah, yeah. He made some
So
nice
weird.
calls down. I'm like, oh my god, this just like stop letting him speak. He's a I almost swore here. He's just a dumbass. I'll say that at least. He's just this what he says is what are you doing here? Makes no sense. And he's conservative down the stretch. We talk about the shell he's playing. I mean, how many of those stuff at the end of the half, at the end of the game too, they just went right down the field. There's no resistance, no creativity. You're heating up Goff the whole game. You're making him uncomfortable. You're getting in his face. You're in his passing lanes. And then, at the end of the game there, you're just not. Too easy for him. And then the flip side, Luke Getsy, he's taken his keys here from his defensive minded head coach. If he wanted to be more aggressive, he probably could, but whatever he may have there is being, coached out of him by the philosophy from his head coach. He's taken the lead there, and defensive minded head coaches generally are more conservative. It trickles down through everything. And that's what we're seeing with Getsy. The run pass at the end there, not going for it on fourth down, some of those plays there. It's like, what are we doing? I mean, you trust Justin Fields the whole game. He's doing this amazing stuff. He looks great. And then in the fourth quarter with, when there's a few minutes left, it's like he almost took the ball out of his hands. I don't agree with that. I think some of the, like I said, some of the mistakes were on Fields, but overall, it's been a theme this year. Too conservative, and that's where I got to go this week.
Yeah, 100%. I did watch the last two drives specifically. I think I mentioned it at the top before we hit the record button for the podcast. But second to last drive, there were 5 pass plays by the Lions. The Bears rushed four with a twist, which okay, at least there's one twist, not 2, and then rushed 4. Right, so they rushed 4 on all 5 dropbacks, no blitz at all. Then on the last drive, they rushed 4 on the first pass play, 5 on the second, but again, it was like a delayed blitz. So, okay, fine. Like, absolutely no pressure. But I don't even know if it was a blitz or it was just like a green light go kind of thing where your guy's not coming out of the backfield, so you rush. Again, I can't tell that with a TV copy, or probably can't tell that either way. But delayed pressure. Rush 4, 1 true blitz. And then rush 4 with a twist at the end. That was it. I mean, that's 12 plays, only 2 blitzes in the final minutes, and you just let Jared Goff walk down the field. I mean, I think the all-22 is going to be even worse. Because I think you're just going to see them just drop back into the shell and just rush 4, and because that's what it looked like. A little bit from the TV copy, you didn't even really see anything middle of the field. And Jared Goff's a veteran. I mean, Jared Goff's been playing good football all year. Like, he's been playing some of the best football in his life, and he was terrible early on in this game. Like, he couldn't do anything right. And then you change your philosophy, and all of a sudden you let this veteran quarterback carve you up. No kidding. Huh? That's weird. Like, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep the pressure on. Do you think Brian Flores would have stopped what he was doing and be like, all right, we've blitzed enough. Let's pull back and let's just try to run the clock out. Like, there's more than enough time. Like, that's what I don't get. There was more than enough time for them to drive the length of the field twice. And that's exactly what they did. So much so that the Bears got the ball back at the end. Like, this wasn't like last second. Like, they were running play. They were running run plays. It's unbelievable. Conservative coach. No kidding.
The Lions are too good to kind of play that game with.
Way too good.
They're a good football team this year. You gotta be the aggressor. You just gotta keep being the aggressor. And the Bears, it's not in them.
Go down swinging. If you're gonna go down swinging. I just, this death by 1,000 cut stuff is stupid. They're playing to try to lose gracefully, basically, and maybe they get lucky with a win. That's what it is. All right, my cold. I mean, I had Flus down. We've already killed him. Uh, I'm going to say Jalen Johnson, and I'm not saying that he had a bad game. I expect great play out of him,
Yeah.
and he missed the opportunity to really. I mean, he might admit he might have cost himself some bucks on that, right? That little out route down by the goal line by Goff, he had it. He had it. That was going back the other way. I don't know that anybody catches him. That's likely a pick six, like a 95-yard return. It's there. That is a
Yeah.
huge play. The Bears would go up 14-0, like changes the complexity of the game. And again, I know the Bears ended up like, having the lead late, all, butterfly flaps its wings, chaos theory. It could be a completely different game. I understand all those things, but that was a 14-point swing. The next play, they scored a touchdown. They had a nice little misdirection flip back play to Gibbs on that, and scored that touchdown. That's 14 points right there. So you want to be, one of the highest paid corners in the league. You want to be thought of as, top corner in the league. You got to make those plays. So I'm giving the cold bull to Jalen Johnson.
He's had a few of those this year where it's kind of been in his hands and he didn't make the play. And I mean, this is really the first year he's had multiple picks, so it's nice to see that he's doing it. But yeah, he's got to make more plays. This is what's going to keep him from being paid like an elite corner because he doesn't have the turnovers, and this is what he needs. And if you're going to pay a guy top money, you either got to be like Revis Island style lockdown, or you got to get a lot of turnovers, and he doesn't have the turnovers. He's a damn good corner. He's a really good football player, but not having the picks is going to hurt him.
All right, the Just Right Bowl. I think there's a few solid contributors here that we can go with. Who do you want to highlight?
I almost had him for my Trends tribute. I'm going to go Braxton Jones, left tackle. Just another solid football game now. He's been back a few weeks here. He was really hot. I guess what happened was where he had to leave the game for a few plays. Either a spotter or his teammates or someone thought he may have had some concussion symptoms. We heard him on the TV copy yell out, I can't F and see. So maybe he has something in his eye. Someone thought he looked dizzy. So whatever it was, he was off the field for a few plays, came back in, and the few plays he was out, Larry Borum in the game gave up a couple pressures on those two plays. One was the touchdown, big pass to DJ Moore. And if you go back and watch that play, Tevin Jenkins comes off his guy late and basically picks up Larry Borum's guy.
That was great.
Which gave Fields the extra split second to step up and make that play. But Braxton Jones, he's to the point where I don't think you take a left tackle early in the draft. I think Braxton Jones is fine. I think, don't replace the guy you don't have to replace. Would I like to see an elite Joe Thomas style left tackle just dominant? Yes. But the way the Bears are constructed now, you have a good right tackle, obviously in the rookie, and your left tackle is a second-year player playing good football. Why change it if you don't have to? So if you have those draft picks and like right now, we don't know if it's going to be quarterback. We don't know what's going to happen with Justin Fields. But if you're going to have two picks there, I'm not going left tackle. I like Braxton Jones.
No, I'm going wide receiver. I'm going to pair somebody up with DJ Moore. Absolutely. I like that. I had a few. I want to mention our guy, Cairo Santos.
Money
4 for 4. Like he's 19 for 20 of the year. He's just been kind of out of his mind at this point. Would you really be surprised if they extended Cairo Santos? Like if it feels like they're ready to give him some new money, but he's turned himself into one of the best kickers in the league. So That's great to see. I mean, sure, we can give him one too. Wasn't the guy that I necessarily wanted to highlight. DJ Moore, again, coming back. This is exactly what you expect from him. Maybe we give DJ Moore a target in the last quarter. Maybe you keep going to him. Like, again, what are we doing? Why not try to feature him to move the sticks there towards the end of the game? But again, that's not the Getsy way. But I wanted to make sure we talked about Montez Sweat. You talked about him a little bit too, but recorded his first sack, and just wanted to make sure that he got a little love here because, again, he brings a different dimension to the Bears defense, and it's good to see him finally get that first sack. He's been getting a lot of pressures, but it's nice to see him finally record a sack for the Bears.
Yeah, Sweat's, he's the multiplier. I mean, that's why the Bears traded for him. they wanted to come in there, and he had some pressures. He was good. He rushed from the interior this game a little bit, so he's a guy you can kind of move up and down your line. We just need to see him play a little more. We need to see him up in that 75-80% range at minimum. I know when back in the day when the Bears would play Akeem Hicks a little too much because he was getting up there. Montez Sweat is still a young man. Let him play. Get him on that field.
All right. Well, that's what we got. Anything that you want to extend the conversation on for, yet another division loss? We got 2 more division games coming up here. We got the Vikings playing on Monday Night Football. You got the bye week, and then you get these same Lions again. You close out the year with the Packers, but you've got, Josh Dobbs, right? Guy this is on his 3rd team, but yet he's playing the least competent football for the Vikings. So, there's a chance here that Coach Eberflus is going to go to 0-11 against the division before you know it, right? Like that's kind of what we're talking about here. But anything you want to highlight before we get out of here and hang out with the YouTube commenters for a while?
Oh, this is going to be our last chance to say anything for the holidays, so everyone have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. We'll have something popping on the channel here. I mean, I know Bill's got something coming up. Taylor's got something coming up, possibly. Mason's going to do something after the holiday. He's going to record his bare bones on Saturday morning because of the holiday. But yeah, everyone have a great, safe, happy Thanksgiving.
Yep, those are good words to end on. Try not to get into an argument with your uncle. Everybody's got an uncle that they're going to get to an argument with. Just try to avoid it. Just walk into the other room and grab another slice of pie or whatever it is that will help you get through that. But yep, appreciate you all. We're thankful for you,
Yes.
and we'll be back on the other side of this on Tuesday to talk about the Monday Night Football game against the Vikings. So enjoy Monday Night Football. I guess you probably won't hear this until tomorrow, but enjoy this game that I think could be a Super Bowl preview. So some good teams playing football on Monday Night Football tonight, and we'll hit you on the other side. So until then, bear down. What's going on, everybody?
I like Chris comes in with the whole learning to win games, one of the biggest piles of nonsense ever. That was huge last year with a couple of those beat guys. They really harped that. And now it seems this year they've kind of changed their tune a little bit. They're not really quite as pro of that. Now it's, stop coaching to lose.
I think it's one of the weirdest talking points that I've ever heard in professional football. Like, it just feels like a way for a coach to try to deflect. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird when the beat guys pick that up. I'm curious about. I mean, I don't follow other podcasts as well as some of you in the comment section, but like it sounds like Adam Johns, is really sticking with this defense of Eberflus, and that this is not. A lot of national people are like, oh, clearly the Bears know that this is not the guy for their rebuild, and they need to get rid of him. And I heard John's kind of doubled down on it. So I think that's coming from somebody, inside the building for him to be able to do that. So I'm still worried that there's not enough people convinced that this isn't the dude.
Well, I think with a guy like Johns and some of the other guys in the beat, they kind of saw the same thing happened with Nagy. I mean, they kept Nagy a year too long. So they're just like, it's going to happen again. I'm kind of the same way. I got a feeling it's going to happen again. This loss stings Eberflus's chances. Monday night is another one. It's going to be, it's a tough game against Minnesota, another division game. I just think at some point Ryan Poles just look at this guy and be like, look, it just wasn't the right hire at the time. And then I don't know if you caught it. Adam Hogue on his podcast, he kind of alluded to that they were trying to push Jim Caldwell as the hire at the time,
right?
Which he was one of the three candidates that
there was the 3
consultants.
Finalists.
Yeah.
So what is that saying? Are there like, I mean, one, you're the group that gave a finalist panel of 3 and told your new GM to pick from that 3. But you could interview other people you wanted, but these are the guys that we interviewed, and they've been pre-approved by us,
Yeah.
right? So one, you included this guy in your final 3. So let's start there. But like, who's trying to save face then? Is it George McCaskey and Bill Polian? They're trying to save face. I mean, you created the top 3, right?
Yeah.
You put that like, oh, I know I offered those 3, but really, we were really saying this is the guy, right?
Yeah.
And was Jim Caldwell going to answer all your prayers? I mean, the process was bad. Like that's the
process,
point.
yeah.
The process was stupid. But I don't know.
Yeah, it was kind of weird when I saw that. I didn't hear it. To be fair, I heard it from secondhand, but it's like who's leaking that to Adam Hogue? Like why is that something that's being leaked to the media? Like you said, who does that benefit? I mean, hindsight says it probably would have been a better situation to hire the offensive guy.
Sure.
With Justin Fields going into year 2, would have been better than the Dan Quinn other guy. But Flus clearly is not it. It's just every week something new happens. He says something stupid. You're just like, why? And look, you don't have to be a great orator to be a head coach. You don't have to, but you got to get some goddamn wins once in a while.
Well, I mean, if you just go back and you say, well, it would have made sense to bring in enough, which it's not. This is not hindsight. This is not second guessing when we were saying it at the time. But
at the time, yeah.
Bring in an offensive guy to coach Justin Fields, right? And so it tells me that they probably weren't in on Fields. Like they probably took the job saying like, we're going to clean house. We're going to give Fields a chance, but whatever. We're going to move on. But if you interviewed tons of coaches, like they interviewed a lot of coaches for this, and they came up with this final 3. 2 of them were defensive minded, and then the one guy that was offensive minded was a Bill Polian guy. Like these results were not surprising given who was helping conduct the search. And then you look at the offensive coaches that were hired in that cycle. I mean, Kevin O'Connell doing pretty good. I know Dayball has taken his lumps this year, but like he had a good year last year.
I'll take him over Eberflus still. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, Mike McDaniel, who's, just outpacing people with what they're doing down in Miami.
Doug Peterson is also in that hiring cycle.
Doug Peterson,
who's looking doing good with the Jags. Yeah.
Right. So even that doesn't make any sense of how you didn't come up with any of those guys in your final 3. And you didn't even interview some of those guys. So your process is bad. That's my point. Like it's not, oh, you picked the wrong guy of the 3. No, your whole process sucked. So like let's just do that. I would like to watch that. I don't know if it's behind a paywall, but I would be curious to see how he broke that down because those breakdowns are pretty fun. I mean, he knows what he's talking about. Maybe not perfect all the time. JT O'Sullivan's QB school, but they're pretty entertaining, and he goes through the all 22 to really show you things that are impossible to pick up in the TV copy. And then, of course, being a quarterback, he's going to know how to break this stuff down a lot better than us. And so it is good learning opportunity. I don't know if it's behind a paywall or not, but he usually makes the Fields ones free because he knows how much traffic he gets from Bears fans. And you could put out a video of any quarterback in the league and Bears fans are going to make the Fields one be the top, hit because of how much they eat up that content. He figured that out. He's smart enough to not put it behind a paywall. Eric wants to know about Phoenix. I didn't watch him that close. I was trying to see when he came in, and I know he had like a rough couple of snaps, but I mean, I was watching right. I wanted to kind of watch that matchup that, the best on best, was a little bit more interesting to me. I thought maybe he got beat for the sack, but it looked like it, the Aleem McNeil sack, but it really like Fields held on to it a long time. Nate Davis, maybe you put it on Davis, but that's a long time for a guard to hold that, and kind of goes in and out, loops around. I don't think that Davis thought he was going to get beat there, so it wasn't Feeney at that point either. But I don't know. I mean, most of the snaps were good, right? I mean, Lester, how in the world are we talking about shotgun snaps?
I know,
on a
right?
Professional football team, right? Like if we were breaking down high school tape.
That's what
maybe
we
we
talk
have to
about.
talk
Yeah.
about it. But I don't understand how we're talking about shotgun snaps from professional centers.
No, but I thought Feeney was fine. I didn't watch him really tightly. I'm gonna go back and check the all 22 out. But when he was in, he got chewed out a few times. The cadence was off. This happens with the new center. I mean, this was really his first week working as the exclusive backup center. Before he was working more at guard when it was Cody Whitehair, when it was Lucas Patrick. Those are your two centers. This week they made the decision that Feeney's going to be your number 2 center. He got the backup center reps. I think going forward, if Patrick's injured, they're going to stick with Feeney just because you gave up a 6th-round draft pick for him. You may as well see what he can do. He's going to be a free agent after this year. So, I mean, maybe he does enough to kind of win a job coming back in Chicago. But I thought he was fine as far as his blocking. The snaps were fine. You just got to get that cadence figured out, which he'll do it, especially if he's the guy this week. He'll get that figured out with Fields.
This is funny from Angry Hamster. So in football, trying to run off the clock and hoping for the best never works. It's called prevent defense. You don't take any chances and just try to hold onto your lead. But prevent defense just prevents you from winning. It's always better to try something, which is from The Good Place. And that character was a Jags fan. I mean, we watched that. My wife and I watched that show. Funny show. It's a good show. But a highlight was this guy that was like this giant Jags fan and Bortles fan, would like dress up in like face paint, body paint and stuff. And so I give Taylor Dahl a lot of Jason Mendoza, The Good Place memes and quotes when she starts talking about, because Taylor's gonna talk Jags, she's gonna talk Bears, and so I like to just reply to her with Jason Mendoza. But yes, this is good writing from The Good Place about prevent defense, which is fair, like to bring up. I appreciate this.
Prevents you from winning. Is The Good Place the one where they're in like not heaven, not hell? They're kind of like, is that the one it is?
Wow! Spoiler alert for those of our audience that have.
I've never seen it. I just my wife binged it one month, the whole thing.
1 month.
And I would catch it once in a while. I see what she's watching, so that's the thing. Okay. Did I spoil something? Did I ruin it?
I mean, if you haven't watched it by now, I mean,
it's like a 10-year-old show.
That's on you. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Okay,
but yes, that's kind of the idea, is that they think they're in the good place, but it's all a ruse. They're actually not, but they're pretend. It's a whole like mind game kind of thing. But it's actually like it's a nice show, and it has like a really nice arc at the end. Like they actually kind of wrap it up pretty well. It's a solid show.
I'm gonna have to watch it now.
I like it. It was funny. But yeah, one of the main characters is a Jags fan, and it's very funny. There's a lot of Bortles talk. It's great. I think this is to me, this is, Lester and I talked about this. EJ and I talked about this. I've talked about this with other people, not on podcasts, but this is why a lot of us were kind of confident of like a 500-ish record for the Bears. And then you have the schedule, which looked weak. There was a lot of games I thought, I think the Bears are more talented than this team, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I was like, this team looks like a 9-8 team. I think they could sneak into the end of the playoffs, right? Like that's where I was at. And you look around, and you're like, okay, like I kind of had everything else right. I kind of had the Vikings falling back a little bit. I had the Packers not being very good. I had all these other teams like, it's being kind of a weak schedule, but yet the Bears can't do it. I think this is dead on. If this coaching staff was decent, I think that this team would be 500. If this was a good coaching staff, I think they'd be good. That's I think the big difference here.
Like when there's inconsistency within your team, that usually falls on coaching. I mean, it's not like there's a lot of young players, but there's enough veterans in place where this shouldn't happen. And then of course the penalties, the step back and penalties. Again, the Bears on Sunday, they had more penalties than the Lions. I think that's now, 8 times this season that's happened. It only happened, I think, 6 times all last year. This was my stat last week. I forget the numbers, but too many penalties. And that's a coaching point.
Chris is making t-shirts up here. She's going to make a shirt for the multiplier. I always, the force multiplier was like something he said about a center, right? Like a center makes, the other position on the line better, but she's going to make one like a count. I think we could probably do it. What's tough is selling shirts during a bad season. We try not to push them too much because, And yeah, this is my thing. Like I don't I think I think Poles came in with the thought like I'm gonna get my own guy, but and Fields just did enough to win over the fan base that they knew that they had like and I think they maybe legitimately won over the front office and all that too. But I think they kind of came in with this plan like here's what we do first year, second year, then we get this guy, right? I mean, I think that was kind of what they were doing. And really, if you look back, they had it, right? They had the first pick. They wanted to. They could have moved on. They could have drafted Stroud. I think Stroud was the pick, even though Young went first. But um, taking another Ohio State guy right after an Ohio State guy would have been interesting. I think Bears fans would have.
They would have lost it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they would have.
It's going to be the same if they
like
take Drake May. Yeah, it'll be the same if they take Drake May. There'll be
That's going to
whole
be tough.
there'll be a
10th in
whole
North
group.
Carolina.
Yeah.
Boy,
Give me a break.
boy.
We're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, we talked about that. Talked about both. Talked about the late hits on Fields and the Patrick hit. I kind of like the last episode. So, there you go. To each their own. I mean, some people don't like the ending of the Sopranos. Some people do. Like, I mean, whatever. To each their own. I kind of liked how they ended. I mean, for a comedy, like I thought it ended pretty well. So
No spoilers.
no, I'm not. I think it
Okay.
was worth it though. To me, like, I mean, you could stop Game of Thrones, before the last season, and no one would blame you, because they really fumbled the ball at the goal line. But like, such a great show, right? Like, anyway, this is not a TV review podcast. Could be. I watch a lot of golden age of TV. Watch a lot of TV shows. Yeah. All right. Well, that's good stuff, guys. Appreciate everybody joining us and kind of running through that fast. But this team is not very good. I'm sorry, I don't want to spend that much time on another loss. Any final thoughts?
Are you guys going to do any fun stuff on Bears or Beers? You have a Thanksgiving pie draft or something coming up? Fun.
So our good friend EJ Snyder decided to take another shot at my rule making on drafts on the last. I don't understand either. Like the rules, the rules provided a good framework for the candy draft, right?
Yes.
Like that. Otherwise, it would just be a candy bar draft. I mean, I made my point clear, and I think that I was proven right. And I think EJ is just a little sore that he came in third place. That's it. I think that's what it comes down to.
That's fine.
So he says that he is going to make the rules.
Oh,
I have not heard about what the rules are. I have not received any correspondence about what the rules will be. And he said he's going to invite a guest, and he has not told me who that guest is.
What is it? A pie draft? A Thanksgiving sides draft?
Sides and desserts is what the suggestion was. But again, I haven't heard from EJ of what it is. So you guys listening, want to find out, ping him on Twitter at football EJ and say what's up with the draft on Wednesday. But yeah, that's what we're planning. That'll be the second half of the show, I guess. And
nice.
Before that, I don't know, hit up Twitter or whatever and let me know what you want us to talk about, because
Thanksgiving food is fun. I enjoy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is the best holiday. I mean, I'll fight for Thanksgiving. This is why I don't appreciate Thanksgiving erasure, the Christmas ads and Christmas music and stuff like that. Day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, you want to start doing all that. I get it. That it's America, but not before then. Like let's give Thanksgiving its due. It's food and it's football. Like,
right?
Can you beat that? Like, I mean, I just come on. It's the best holiday. So St. Patrick's Day also great, but again, there's no football on St. Patrick's Day.
No football, yeah.
So, all right, we'll get out of here. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hang out with us on Wednesday and let us know what you think of the Thanksgiving sides draft, and then be safe on the holidays.